Hello and welcome to this Tender Transitions production focusing on life-changing coaching using TBRI and ABA principles. I'll be your host, Nishoni Harvey. Are you a foster parent of a medically fragile child with unanswered questions or less than apt support? I coach foster parents on how to move their medically fragile foster child from trauma to triumph. Join me today to explore successfully parenting the medically fragile child. Hello, and welcome to this episode. Today, we're going to talk about understanding your medically fragile foster child. What exactly is a medically fragile foster child or a medically fragile child? When we talk about medically fragile children, we refer to a unique group of young individuals who require a higher level of care due to complex medical conditions. And these conditions can range from chronic illnesses and disabilities to life-threatening health challenges that require constant medical attention. Understanding what it means to be medically fragile is crucial for families, for caregivers, and for healthcare professionals alike. And in this episode, we're going to explore the definition, the common conditions, the challenges, and ways to support the medically fragile children. So, understanding the term medically fragile is crucial to this episode. So I want to start off with that. A medically fragile child is one who has a serious, often life-threatening health condition that requires extensive medical care. And these children may have chronic illnesses, significant developmental delays, or congenital disabilities that necessitate ongoing medical treatment, therapies, or frequent hospital visits. And their conditions are often complex and they require specialized care from multiple healthcare providers. And these healthcare providers can include pediatricians, specialists, therapists, and nurses. So the fragility in these children's health often means that even minor illnesses or injuries can have severe consequences, and they can lead to a heightened need for vigilance and prompt medical intervention. The vulnerability makes them, distinct from other children with special needs, as their conditions are often more severe and unpredictable. There are several medical conditions that are associated with medical fragile children. It's a very wide range of medical conditions, but some of the common conditions include congenital heart defects. Children that are born with heart defects, they can require surgery, medication, and ongoing monitoring to manage their condition. And these heart problems can range from mild to life-threatening, and they often necessitate lifelong care. Can also include respiratory disorders, conditions like lung diseases, cystic fibrosis, or severe asthma. These can make it difficult for a child to breathe without assistance. And many of these children require oxygen therapy, ventilators, and respiratory support. The third condition is neurological disorders. Children with conditions such as cerebral palsy, episodes or epilepsy or severe brain injuries often face significant physical and cognitive challenges. And these disorders may require complex care routines, including medications, physical therapy, and specialized equipment. Another part of this can be premature birth complications. Infants born prematurely, they often face a range of health issues, and this includes underdeveloped organs, respiratory distress, and feeding difficulties. These conditions can result in long-term medical needs that extend far into childhood. Yet another common condition that's associated with the medically fragile children is genetic disorders. Conditions such as Down syndrome, muscular dystrophy, and other genetical abnormalities, can lead to a variety of health problems, including developmental delays, heart defects, and muscle weakness. And then, of course, there's the children with cancer. Pediatric cancers, such as leukemia and brain tumors, they require intensive treatment regimens that can include chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. And these treatments often weaken the immune system, and they make the child more susceptible to infections. And then the last one is immune system disorders. Children with compromised immune systems, either due to a genetic condition or a result of treatment for other illnesses, they have a higher risk for infection, and they require careful monitoring and preventative care. Children with medically fragile conditions, there's challenges to fostering them or to parenting them, because it's a demanding and often overwhelming responsibility. Families and caregivers must navigate the complex healthcare system. They have to coordinate multiple appointments. They have to manage medications and treatments, and they have to provide emotional support to the child. And so I'm going to talk about some of the common challenges that they face. The first one is emotional strain. The constant worry about a child's health and potential for emergency or medical emergencies, it can take a toll on the emotional well-being of caregivers and family members. And the unpredictability of the child's condition can lead to anxiety, stress, and burnout. And then, of course, there's the financial burden. The cost of medical care for a medically fragile child can be staggering. Even, for instance, families often, they face significant out-of-pocket expenses for medications, therapies, equipment, and home modifications. And many times, parents may also need to reduce work hours or leave their jobs to provide full-time care, which further exacerbates the financial strain. The third thing that they face is isolation. It's not something that we think about very often, but due to a child's health needs, families may become socially isolated. Because frequent hospitalization and the need to avoid exposure to infections, these can limit the participation in social activities, and it leads to feelings of loneliness and alienation. And then, of course, number 4 is navigating the healthcare system. Coordinating care for a medically fragile child requires working with a team of healthcare providers, understanding complex medical information, and advocating for the child's needs. And this can be overwhelming, especially when facing bureaucratic challenges with insurance and medical equipment, suppliers, and service providers. And then lastly, the last challenge that I want to talk about, and I know that there's more, but this is the last one that I want to talk about today, is education and development. Ensuring that medically fragile children receive an appropriate education is another significant challenge, because these children may require special educational services, individualized education plans, which are also known as IEPs, or even homeschooling. And balancing their medical needs with education goals requires careful planning and collaboration with the educators. So I want to talk a little bit about supporting medically fragile children and their families. This requires a holistic approach that addresses not only their medical needs, but also their emotional, social, and developmental well-being. So there's some key ways to provide these support. One of them is medical care coordination. Establishing a medical home, with a primary care provider who has coordinated all aspects of the child's care is essential. This helps ensure that all healthcare providers are on the same page and the child's care is comprehensive and well managed. And the second one is emotional support. Families of medically fragile children, they benefit from access to counseling, support groups, and respite care. And these resources provide emotional relief, reducing feelings of isolation, and they offer practical advice for others who share similar experiences. And that's one thing that we offer at Tender Transitions is we offer coaching, we offer support groups, offer counseling and things like this. So, if you're going through some of this, reach out to us at medicallyfragilefosterparent.com. The third one I want to talk about is education and advocacy. Families should be empowered to advocate for their child's education and healthcare needs. And this includes understanding their rights, accessing special education services, and working with schools to develop appropriate learning plans. The fourth way to help medically fragile foster children and their families know the third way to support them is education and advocacy. Children, actually, I think I already talked about this point. So we're going to talk about community resources. Connecting with community organizations that specialize in supporting medically fragile children can provide valuable resources such as financial assistance, specialized equipment, and adaptive recreational opportunities. And then the fifth thing is self-care, for the caregivers. Caregivers often don't think about the fact that they need self-care. And this is something that's vital, because if you can't take care of your own self, then you can't take care of a child, never mind a medically fragile child. Caregivers must prioritize their own well-being to avoid burnout. When fostering medically fragile children, a lot of times we wouldn't take the respite that was offered. And so we just didn't like taking it. We liked to keep the children with us. But that's something that's necessary because you have to prioritize your own well-being to avoid burnout. Regular self-care, seeking help when needed, and maintaining a support network are also crucial for sustaining the ability to provide high-quality care. And then in conclusion, medically fragile children and their families face extraordinary challenges. But with the right support and resources, these children can thrive. Understanding what it means to be medically fragile is the first step in providing compassionate care and fostering a supportive environment that meets their complex needs. So by raising awareness and building a community of support, we can help ensure that medically fragile children live full, healthy, and meaningful lives. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. I wanted to talk to you about what is a medically fragile child, and of course, talk to you about how to support those parents that are, supporting a medically fragile child. So my name is Nishoni Harvey with Tender Transitions LLC, and we foster parents on how to minister to the needs of their medically fragile children, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, so they can move them from trauma to triumph. If you are a foster parent or even a parent of a medically fragile child, reach out to us at www.coaching, I just forgot, foster parent, medicallyfragilefosterparent.com. All right, so that's www.medicallyfragilefosterparent.com. We'll see you in a later episode.
Thank you for joining me today in this episode of Parenting the Medically Fragile Child with Nishoni Harvey. We coach foster parents on how to minister to the needs of their medically fragile child physically, emotionally, and spiritually so they can move them from trauma to triumph. If you're the foster parent of a medically fragile child, make Tender Transitions LLC your go-to resource. You can find us at www.medicallyfragilechild.com. We offer coaching, courses, training, and free resources to the medically fragile community. Join us next time on our next episode of Parenting the Medically Fragile Child so you too can move your child from trauma to triumph.